You know, it's getting to be that time of year when homeowners are thinking about the right time to prepare and list their home for sale, and maybe think about where they want to be living by next year. And so, actually preparing your home for sale might be something that we should review.
Sure, let's talk about it.
Okay? Well, welcome back to the channel. I'm Terry Pasquarelli, MVP Realty.
I'm Rich Pasquarelli with MVP Realty.
It's a fun time of year to be thinking about what lies ahead, and maybe there's a new home in someone's future, but to get there, they've got to prepare and sell their current home.
That's right, and there's more to it than just putting out a sign and saying I'm for sale.
That's for sure. And I think we could go over maybe the top 5 areas of tips that we would talk to any of our customers about when they want to think through how to best prepare their home for a successful sale.
Right.
It's one thing to be listed. It's another thing to be successfully sold in a timely way.
That's right.
So we should talk about those 5 things. And the first one, I think, is one that you talk to customers about a lot. I'll let you go with that one.
Okay. Selling your home is a pain in the... It's a pain in the...
Okay, it can be. So tell me about what would make that, stressful and annoying, even perhaps to customers.
Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that when you sell your house, you're going to have showings, you're going to have, people coming into your house, and yes, you have to have your house prepared and ready, but you could be busy. Maybe making dinner or whatever, and you get a call, can we show your house? And it's not the greatest time, but you never ever can refuse a showing, especially in our market down here, because we have so many buyers that are only here for the week, or and they came down to look for a house, and well, we can't show it this week or today because of this or that, and those people are moving on to the next house, and you may have, you've lost a potential buyer.
So it's about being prepared, like having your home picked up and ready to show,
Right.
and then being willing to be flexible on your schedule to make it be shown, and not make it difficult for your agent to help you, or for buyers to see themselves coming into your home.
Right.
I think, when you summarize that, you've got the headline, but I'd say that's a mindset. Are you a serious home seller? Are you really ready to go through all of the steps? And if you do them well, you actually reduce the amount of time you have to put up with that disruption or potential stress.
Right.
But it's a mindset. And so the very first thing is, do you have the mindset to be prepared to sell your home and do
Right.
everything that it takes to do it well?
Exactly, right, because you're gonna actually have it done faster and for the most money that you can if everything is done the right way and you are not refusing any showings.
Okay, so that's tip number 1, get in the right frame of mind.
Right.
Now, tip number 2 is starting to take action, and that is prepare your home. Before you ever agree to the listing date or the date to start showing it, preparing your home is really one of the critical out of these 5 steps that can go such a long way in helping you make sure that you put it, kind of show it off at its best, and allow people to think of themselves living in there, as opposed to thinking about them coming in and feeling like they need to fix everything, from a clutter
Right.
point of view or a maintenance point of view. So
Right.
there's a lot of subtopics underneath prepare your home.
Prepare your home, and
What is declutter? Now where would you suggest somebody take their thoughts about decluttering a home?
Well, again, we go into resale homes, and we go into a lot of model homes, and whenever we walk into a model home, everybody says, "Oh, this is beautiful. I can picture myself living here." If you go into a resale home that has a laundry basket, it has all of your knickknacks out there. It has your kitchen counter that has all of your blender and your toaster and your deep fryer and all of that.
Maybe
That's
every
out,
square
all
inch
of
is
this
covered.
stuff is covered. People can't envision themselves. You've got maybe a wall of pictures from your vacations and everything, and you're making it more difficult for them to see how they would live in the house. They see how you're living there, and it's almost like they feel like they're intruding on your, So.
Right, and then that's not your intention.
No.
You want to show that it's a home, not a house, right?
Right.
So that we get that. But the other thing there too is when you talk about the clutter on a kitchen counter or in a bathroom where there's just stuff strewn everywhere.
Right.
The rooms look smaller.
Right.
Closets look smaller when you open the door and things are just about popping out at you because the closets are so jammed.
Right.
We understand that living in Southwest Florida, we don't have basements, we don't have attics, and so it's very tempting to kind of put something in every little nook and cranny of a home. But when it's time to sell that home, you want it to appear spacious, well proportioned, that the closets are adequate, which they will be if they just aren't also your long-term storage.
Exactly. It's easy to live there because it has the room that I need to live there.
Exactly. So it is worth it to box up some things that might be in your closets that you don't use all the time that just make the closets look really overcrowded.
Right.
Same thing for furniture. People have sometimes furniture that is way too large for the room they live in.
Right.
They brought it with them from wherever and it suits them and it works for them.
Right.
But it is sort of putting off the buyers who come in and see big chunky furniture in rooms that really would be much more appealing if things were at a different scale.
Right.
Now, you're not going to replace all your furniture, of course, but taking out a key piece or two that is not critical to your day-to-day living before you move could go a long way to just making that room more open and inviting and not just being overstuffed with, again, your lifelong accumulation of possessions, whatever it might be that people have there. So
you're living there, so you like to have those things there, but when you're selling, you have to show them how they can live there.
Right. So that decluttering is, think about it in drawers, on countertops, in bathrooms, in closets, in terms of furniture, and then even sometime the garage. Now, sometime a garage is a place you can put some of those things, and you may have to trade that off.
Right.
People understand you're moving, and they see you packing.
I
So
think
that's
people
sort of okay with that.
Right. People are more tolerant with, the garage being full. But again, if you can show that as, I can really fit my 2 cars in here.
And a bike.
And a bicycle and all of that. And so, but people are a little more tolerant when they see boxes in the garage. They understand. But if you can clean that out, once again, you're just removing another, question in the minds of the buyer.
Now, you mentioned a sub-point in here after decluttering, and it can be part of clutter. You wouldn't look at it that way as the homeowner, but depersonalizing. And whether you have a few well-placed family mementos or walls and walls of photos and, the countertops covered with memorabilia and photos, depersonalizing does 2 things. Again, it allows that buyer to look in the space and see themselves instead of feel like they're intruding on you, as you were saying. And it also, I think, helps you to, kind of almost start removing yourself, from the home as well, because now you're going to start to think about this a little bit as a business transaction. I'm going to sell this real property, and it is an emotional time. And I think, starting to just take your things and envisioning them in the place you're going and putting them away and getting them ready to move just helps you to sort of, again, mindset-wise, make that, kind of turn and focus. If everything's got to be out to the last possible day, you're going to have trouble too. And, it is stressful to leave a home. It's someplace you've built memories, you've raised your family or whatever it might have been. And, we want you to have a good feeling about the process as well. Depersonalizing definitely helps in a lot of ways.
Sure does.
Right? So now behind that, that's sort of surface things, putting things away, decluttering, maybe storing things.
Right.
But what about repairs? I think about, removing objections. You sort of alluded to that before.
Right.
The potential for repairs can be an objection for some buyers.
It is, and we see a lot of people that were looking for homes here. They don't want another project, and when they see a property that, it might need the gutters are overflowing, and it has the grout around the shower isn't cleaned, or maybe it's cracked. And they just start adding this up in their mind that, okay, I got to do that, I got to do this needs to be done, and that needs to be done. A lot of these little objections could be removed very easily and inexpensively, and you move on to the better things in selling your house.
Right, and if things really look attractive, modern, of high functioning utility right now, not 40 years ago or
Right.
30 years ago when you moved in, it also brings you a better price potentially.
Certainly does.
People are going to look at comparable products to yours in a comparable price range. They're not going to usually come to one house and just say that's it.
Right.
They're going to look. And so if you have not kept up with the repairs on your home and the competitor has, the first buyer is going for that home, and that
Sure.
home's going to sell quicker
Right.
and probably for a relatively a higher price, all
Right.
other things being equal, than the home where somebody just left things languishing. They didn't repaint, they didn't fix those cracks. So
Right.
I think some of that too is that you only have one chance to make a first impression kind of feeling. And when
Right.
people come in and say, oh, this is clean, it's painted, it's in good repair, they for the things they can see.
Right.
They also make that assumption about the things they can't see.
Exactly.
And so if your home looks kind of like nobody's tended to it for a long time, they wonder what else you may have neglected as a home buyer.
Right.
A homeowner rather, and that can be again a reason for someone to say, let's go see the next place.
Right, and a lot of these things, they're, you can go in and modernize your house without having to remodel the kitchen and bath. You can put on a fresh modern coat of paint. You can change a light fixture, maybe a sink faucet.
Even the pulls and the handles on cabinets, give things a very cleaned up modern look.
Exactly.
Just the things that don't have to be a major
Right.
expense in
Right.
home renovation.
I mean, they may cost you a few $1,000s to get all of that stuff done, but in the scheme of things, people are looking at your house and they say, well, it looks modern, it looks, up to date.
It looks ready to go.
It looks ready to go. Maybe take down those 20-year-old drapery window treatments and either don't put
That's
anything
right.
or
Nice
put
clean blinds
something
may
clean.
do better
Right.
than the heavy over,
Right. Yes.
curtains
so
that
you
people
don't
used
have
to
to
use.
spend
No.
$30,000 in remodeling a kitchen. You can just make it look a lot nicer.
Right. And that whole cleaning on the inside, don't forget to apply that thought to the outside of your home as well.
Exactly.
That curb appeal is also part of making the first right impression.
Mm-hmm.
You may need to power wash your driveway, your roof, parts of your house that are, stained or just for whatever reason are not showing at their best. And
Right.
so that whole idea about repair and maintaining is something that you can really take your own kind of personal inventory and say, if I walked up here and it wasn't my house, what jumps out at me that I
Right.
could just bring up a notch and remove as an objection. Now, there may be some things that you either can't see or are aging and could be a concern. What about the idea of the home seller getting an inspection before they list the home for sale rather than waiting for the buyer to come along and do an inspection later? What do you think about that?
We usually suggest that to our sellers, especially if they've lived in the home for a number of years. There's things that they just don't know. That to go in, get an inspection, and take care of any defects that the inspector finds before it even goes on the market, and just removed any of those questions that may come up when the buyer does it, and then now you're in a time crunch and you're in negotiating, and
They may want to renegotiate the value, the selling price of that home.
right.
Right? And that's what
Exactly.
you don't want to have happen.
Right.
If
And-
you have a
and
contract, you want it to start
Just
moving forward.
sail through it, and this way here, you don't want to lose the buyer. You don't want to overcompensate for a repair that maybe the value is out of proportion to the actual repair cost.
So perception may not equal reality, and you could get in front of that.
That's right.
That's certainly something to think about. So these steps of preparing your home are really necessary. When we come in to talk to customers about reviewing their home and preparing a listing agreement, it's really better, in our opinion, to give you the time to do that before we ever would want to put your house on the market, because you don't want to be in the middle of those projects. Or now that you've got that mindset that you're ready to go, you may have a couple of months worth of work, days, weeks, or months ahead of you
Right.
of things you need to do when you get through that. How do I have to prepare my house checklist.
Right.
And so the fact that you're thinking about selling your home is really a trigger point to say, what can you do to get ahead of these things so that when you really are ready, we don't have to say, you're going to have to wait until these major items are taken care of.
Right.
Let's get, help you get ahead of that before you even maybe sit down and talk with us about the listing agreement
Right.
and what we're going to sell your house
Yeah,
for.
take these tips and run with it in your house. And then when it gets closer to the time, give us a call, or if you're, up north, and give a professional a call, have them come in and have them fine tune what you weren't, maybe you didn't see.
That's right. Now, the next thing is you've got your house in good condition or great condition now. You've got the mindset that you're really seriously ready to sell. You've decluttered, you've depersonalized, you're starting to turn toward the future. You've got to come up with what is the right positioning of your home in the market. What is it going to be able to do to draw in potential buyers and then be the one that they actually want to buy, as opposed to one that was interesting to look at, but they keep making another choice. So you've got to now think about pricing your home to sell.
Right.
And so that's another big step that you shouldn't take lightly. And it's not always as easy as it sounds.
Right.
Especially when it's your home, it's not an investment property that you look at arm's length. You kind of associate a lot of value with your personal home, which is an emotional decision to say, what is it worth to me versus what is it worth to the market?
And of course, in the market that we have just been in here in 21, 22, you may have expectations, and we talk about that in another video that you should watch. But you really need to understand the market value of your home and what is that house going to sell for. Now that you've removed all of the objections that a buyer could have, whether the wall needs to be painted or this needs to be fixed, all of those things have been removed. Now you're only left with maybe some objections that you cannot remove, and that all of that has to be done by price.
Right. So what are the things that are objections you can't remove, or, upside that you can take advantage of? It might be your location in terms of the location of your community relative to conveniences in the area that the community is positioned.
Right.
It might be your home site within the community. Could be a real advantage. And it could be perhaps not the most desirable as some other home sites in your community. And all of those things are part of what you have to weigh in addition to the condition of the home itself.
Right.
And so all of that goes into thinking about pricing your home appropriately and pricing your home to sell. We're coming off of a very strong seller's market. Things are getting a little bit more balanced. It's still technically a seller's market, and that's great. It means prices have been trending up. But one of perhaps the biggest disservices a home buyer could do is insist on overpricing their home.
Right.
That's just a disaster, waiting to happen, and a recipe for frustration.
Right.
And we really don't want you to go down that road. We want you not to list your house. We want you to sell your house.
Exactly.
And I think you've said a couple times that a home at some point is just not going to sell for more than the market will dictate.
That's
the
right.
market's going to tell you
Right.
what you can get for your house, not you sitting at the kitchen table,
saying,
oh, it's worth this plus more,
yes,
and
because
X
Fred
premium,
down the street got this, and
I'm
that's
going to
what
get
we
that
want.
plus,
that. Yes.
so plus 30% or
Right.
whatever you think about.
Right.
No, it's very important. And I think when you do that, you have to think about when you overprice your home, what does that do to the pool of people who might come to see it?
Right.
And there's some data out there that suggests that for every 5 and 10% and 15% above realistic levels that you price your home, you basically are turning away potential customers.
Right.
They will not find you in their search because you may have bridged beyond their search criteria, or when they see you in a range of homes, they're going to see value of some other home in that same price point.
Right.
And if you don't have the same features, or you have some other objection, then they're going to go to that other home. And
Right.
so less people will come to your home, and your home will just sit on the market for perhaps weeks. And a new listing is really new for a finite period of time. That's when it's exciting.
Right.
That's when people want to come out and see it.
Right. The buyers that are out there in that pool are going to see that house listed, and they're going to come to it. So you're going to get a flurry of interest right in the beginning. And when they come out and all of those serious buyers have chosen another property for its value over yours, now you're just left with the trickle of maybe the new buyer that might come into the market at that time. So you're sitting there waiting for the next one to come up and maybe take a look at your property, and hopefully that doesn't find something else of higher value someplace else.
No, that's right. And then if your home is on the market and lingering on the market 3 weeks, a month, more than that, what are one of the things you have to think about? One of the few tools you have and levers you have at that point is to take a price reduction.
Right.
And a price reduction can be helpful. It maybe was the price you should have listed it at to start with when the home was 0 days on market instead of 47 or 97 days on market.
Right.
But that also kind of has a connotation in the market that house may have been overpriced and what else is going on,
Right.
and the price was reduced. Now it'll bring some buyers back to the table to say, oh, reality check, now this is in, kind of makes sense
Right.
to me for the value that they're asking.
Well, that's what we do, right? If we have a house that has a listing that maybe they've reduced the price, we'll call up the agents that have shown it before to let them know, hey, if your customer is still out there looking, I want you to know that we've reduced the price on this property, and maybe it's worth another look.
That's right. And yet I'd rather you not have to do that.
Right.
I'm happy to make the calls, but I'd rather have someone come that first week or a couple of weeks after you went on the market, your home was priced appropriately, and you didn't have to tap dance about
Right.
why you have to change the
Right.
parameters of the sale.
Yeah, you don't
so
want
let's
your
price
listing
it right.
to get stale and then have to rely on a price reduction, to get it sold.
That's right. Now, the other thing is, if you have a home that's not priced well, in this case, we're talking predominantly about overpricing, and you're sitting on that longer, it also means you're taking care of all the carrying costs of owning that home while you could have been at the closing table.
Right.
So you're paying a monthly mortgage, perhaps.
Right.
You're paying insurance. You're paying
The
maintenance
HOA
and
fees.
HOA fees and all the upkeep.
Thousands of dollars of expenses are ticking by as you're waiting for that best price.
Right, which may not have actually overcome the amount of out-of-pocket that you've paid as months go by.
That's
so
right.
You've got to think about that big picture. It might feel great to say, wow, we've got the highest price, on the street or in the neighborhood, but what did it cost you
Right.
to try to get there? And then, kind of think realistically. So we don't want to take your listing. I'll be really honest. We just don't. We want to help you sell your house.
Right.
And there's a difference. It goes back to mindset at the very beginning. And it's a partnership of really having a good open dialogue with a homeowner to understand how we can optimize what they get for their home, and also being realistic that getting the right price and moving on is usually the way to go.
Right.
For the most part. So those are 3 tips: the mindset, physically preparing the home, and figuring out the way to price the home.
Right.
But we're not done. We have two more tips to share. Before we do that, if you're finding something of interest here in this video, in this episode, I would ask you to give us a thumbs up on this one. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's free, isn't it?
It is free.
We have a special
for a
this
limited
week.
time. It is free
Forever.
and
Always free. That's really good. What a value.
it is. It's quite a value. And like you always say, we don't hound you. We don't send you emails. We don't do any of that. All this does is to say that it gives you a little notice saying that that we've posted another video that you might be interested in. Hopefully, you'll come and take a look at it and give that new video a thumbs up. But
Right.
you're not being forced into anything.
That's right. So we hope you'll tune in for all the subsequent episodes. Share them with people who could value and benefit from them as well. And there's certainly a share button right here underneath the episode that's playing now.
Right.
And we also appreciate that when you subscribe, it also helps YouTube understand that there's value in this content and helps us to get that content out to other people like you, who really are interested in real estate in Southwest Florida and in the greater Naples area. So we greatly appreciate your help and say thank you to all of you who've already subscribed and have stayed tuned to the channel. It's really great to have your comments and your feedback below, and to know that you're following us as the market progresses, because it's always changing. So that's the other reason to subscribe.
Yes. Yep.
Stay in touch. So in that regard, let's get back to today's topic. There's still 2 more tips to talk about to make our top 5 tips for preparing to sell your home successfully in Southwest Florida. The next one is hiring the right agent.
That's right.
Well, maybe that's where we come in.
Oh boy, I tell you, we've seen some doozies.
Of course, of course. But now part of it is really thinking about the conversation you want to have with a real estate professional when you're making the decision to list your home with them. And one of the things we want to talk to you about that you should be asking any agent that comes in are, how are the agent and their company going to really list and market your home to position it well with the best cohort of potential buyers in the most timely way. And there are a lot of tools that come and go, or that are appropriate in different communities and in different price points. So we can't get into all of that here, but having that in-depth conversation about how a home is going to be positioned and getting it ready for market is really one of those serious conversations that you should be having with the real estate professional. And as you're hearing from us here today, a lot of what we want to talk about is partnering with you to make sure everything's done even before we ever list the home, to get you the best optimal price so that you can move on and enjoy the next chapter for yourself.
Boy, we've seen that quite a number of times, where we would make an offer on a home, and the paperwork isn't there for us to be able to put in a proper offer.
That's right. And so part of that is working with the agent to understand what are the components that make a listing packet, not only for you and the relationship you have with that agent and brokerage, but potentially for buyers. Because when people are ready to move forward, they're looking for accuracy in the listing. We may have questions that you may want to go back and dig into that are really important to know up front. The age of the roof, it has insurance implications, it has future cost implications for that buyer. There are things that come up that you really want to make sure are very accurately reflected in your listing. Not just the room sizes, but so much more around it. And we know where the typical questions are, and we can help you get in front of that, so that we've researched and documented all of those things that are really going to come up in the conversations once you start selling your home.
And one of the things that comes up every now and then, but that sometimes people may not think of offhand, is who's on the deed?
Well, that's a huge one, isn't it?
It sure is.
Everyone on the deed should be represented and needs to be represented in agreeing to list a home.
That's right.
And sometimes that means that there's an attorney that's going to get involved, because there could be people who are no longer together in terms of moving forward for a lot of reasons, It could be people have separated or divorced. It could be someone has passed away.
It could be an illness.
It could be an illness, and somebody's not in a position to make a business transaction. And so if there's anything complicated, if things are held in trust, and we need to make sure that the trust documents are available to the title company and people who are going to help you the rest of the way through the process. These are all things that we want to get on the table with you before you ever get that listing signed, sealed, and heading to market.
Exactly.
So that accuracy for the listing is important. The other thing, and hopefully this is the beginning of it, is communication.
Oh my.
One of the biggest things that makes something less stressful is really productive communication, transparent, constructive, and how do you like to be communicated with? Make sure the person you're choosing as your real estate professional knows how and when they can get a hold of you, what some of your off hours are that you may not be available, and what is their routine in terms of checking in with you, sharing information, and making sure you're up to date every step of the way going through the transaction. And that communication can really be the difference between you feeling really good about the process and the outcome and perhaps being super frustrated.
That's right.
You don't want an agent who sort of disappears on you because either they're too busy for you and you're not important in terms of their portfolio of business.
Or it's not what they offer.
It's just not what they do.
That's right. It's not what they do.
That's right. So I think the other thing is to also understand the level at which your real estate professional understands the process you're going to go through.
That's for sure.
They're going to talk to you about multiple different kinds of contract templates that are used here in Southwest Florida, and how you may be able to direct that, or how you may be able to respond to that depending on the template that comes in from an offer from a potential buyer. So how well does your agent know the process? And can they talk to you about the ins and the outs? And when things get beyond the real estate discussion, either into that legal discussion or some of the other nuances that are very specific, could be specific to insurance or to inspection, there are other professionals. And does your real estate person actually connect you to some of the best resources in town to make sure that you're being well served?
Right.
Because trying to answer every question may not actually be the right approach. It may be saying, I know where my expertise is, and I know that I can connect you with that next expert who's really going to take it to the correct, endpoint.
Exactly.
And that's really what you want. You want the right person answering the right question, not someone who's just trying to kind of push their way through all of it and hope for the best.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I don't want to hope.
We don't want to hope. We want to make sure.
Get it right.
Yep.
So that's the fourth one, is really your selection process and some of the things that should be on your mind to hire the right real estate professional. Now there's one more, and that is, you're at that point where you've got a listing agreement, you're putting your house up on the multiple listing service, you want to invite a whole host of potential buyers to come into your house and possibly then get a contract. You need to go back from a mindset again and think about the process mindset of being prompt, about being accurate when questions come, being prepared to negotiate. And that's another whole level of information that you need to have ready. Again, if you can get ahead of it. Do you have a survey for your home? If you do, can you pull it out in advance, not when somebody's under the gun for it? HOA documents, condo documents. You've got to work with your homeowners association or condo association to help make sure that the most up-to-date documents, and there are a required list of them in some cases, like with condos, that you want to have access to, so that they can be provided. They must be provided,
and we can't wait
to the buyer.
Yeah, we can't wait to give that to someone who's put in an offer. We need to get that to them right away. We don't want, once somebody puts in that offer, we don't want anything to slow anything down. So we want to have all of that stuff in the beginning. We want to have any application forms that they may need. We want to have all of the documents, all before we ever get that offer. This way, when you do get the offer, we have the paperwork, we can just send it right off to them, and there's no delay whatsoever.
That's right. And there are some contractual timelines, for example, with condos, that if by the time an offer came through, a buyer has not been provided with the specified list of documents, they have 3 business days in Florida, according to contract, where they can void the contract because they finally read the rules and regulations of the community when you got it to them 5 days later. Or they finally got the budget for the community, just to name 2 that would be probably triggers. And you can't waive that voidability clause. The buyer can't and the seller can't. And so you just have taken your home off the market, put it under contract, but you've extended the period of time at which a buyer could actually back out of the deal. If in fact, in a condo situation, those homeowner documents are not to their liking and they feel like they can't comply, or they're concerned about the financial foundation of the community that's holding money in reserve and so forth. So there's some real implications to having your documents ready, and we can talk in each situation to you about what it could mean to you. But again, being prompt, being accurate is important. Doing a seller's disclosure. I can't overestimate the importance of having a seller's disclosure before you list your home and making it available right away, so that any agent bringing in any potential customer can share that seller disclosure up front before an offer is ever made. And what does it mean to say, I have a seller's disclosure? It means the seller disclosed. That's good for you as a seller.
If the ice maker doesn't work, you say the ice maker doesn't work. Well, when they go and inspect the house and they say, hey, the ice maker doesn't work. Yeah, we told you. It's off the table.
You would have hoped that that buyer should have made their offer based on what was disclosed and the
Right.
condition. And that all went into the value that they have offered to you. And now you may say, no, I'm not fixing or not in a position to fix or replace that,
Right.
but I disclosed it to you. And again, disclosing the age of the water heater or the air conditioner or whatever it is
Right.
that is called for in your seller's disclosure forms helps you understand, again, that value proposition and discussion
Right.
and negotiation with a buyer, but it goes a long way to removing objections or hidden surprises that only turn up later, much deeper into a process once you've taken your house from active to pending, and you really hope not to have to put it back
Right.
active and start all over again.
And we've had some sellers that maybe have never lived in a house. Maybe it was their parents' home.
That's true.
For whatever reason, they may not know all of the answers to those questions. And one of the columns, one of the little check boxes is, I don't know. And it's perfectly fine if you don't know the answer to the question is to say, I just don't know.
But still fill it out,
still
sign
fill
it,
it
and
out.
say, I don't know.
Right.
That is much more clear and transparent than not having one.
Right.
And wondering from the buyer's
Why
side,
not?
why do they not have one? What's not being discussed?
Right.
That kind of thing. So that's very important. The other thing along those lines that comes up at this kind of time frame as you get ready to negotiate, and you can get in front of it, is to make sure with the county that you don't unknowingly have open permits.
Yes.
Because a title company is going to do a permit search for the buyer,
Okay.
and it will come up and it will have to be resolved, usually under a time crunch. And sometimes there's just weird, lingering old stuff that
Right.
really is not a permit issue. It's a paperwork
It's a
issue.
paperwork
but
issue,
you've got to
almost
get a
always.
county to close it out. And that's your responsibility as the seller. So you
Right.
want to get ahead of all of those kinds of things in a prompt, accurate way. And that allows you to have a very kind of courteous, business-like conversation and discussions back and forth with the person or people who are going to buy your home.
Sure.
And so I think to wrap up, we've said mindset. We talked about preparing your home physically,
Right.
setting the right price, hiring the right agent, and then being prepared to show your home with flexibility and
Right.
having all those documents and things that go into a contract, the homeowners fee disclosures and addendums and seller disclosure, survey, permits, all
Right.
that stuff ready to go. And then you've got 5 key tips that
Right.
will help you to get the best outcome
Right.
from the sale of your property in a very timely way compared to what it will be if you're not ready.
Yeah. And remember, never refuse a showing. If at all possible, never
please.
be at the showing or an open house or at the inspection. You should go to the beach, go shopping,
Run an errand.
Visit
to
a
dinner,
friend,
have lunch, whatever it is.
Walk the dog, but don't be there.
Right. And so all those things can go into the formula for having a successful home sale. And that's really what we want for you. So when you're ready to have this conversation and you're thinking about selling your Southwest Florida home, or you're thinking about selling the home that will allow you to move to Southwest Florida, give us a call. Again, I'm Terry Pasquarelli with MVP Realty.
I'm Rich with MVP Realty.
Our contact information is down below, and we encourage you to reach out to us in any way that's convenient. Text, call, email. We're here and ready to help. And we have some other home tips for you. So before you leave, don't forget to look at the video here in the upper right, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye now.